Every mission starts with a person, and every person has a story. Join us as we sit with leaders across East and Southern Africa to hear how defining moments planted them firmly in the purpose that drives them. This is Rooted, a podcast from the Leader Collective at Bloodwater. Hello and welcome to Rooted, a podcast from the Leader Collective at Bloodwater. I am your host, Nadia Kist, and I am absolutely delighted to introduce you to our guest today, who has been a partner and leader within the Bloodwater community for 8 years, Geoffrey Kinaalwa Semakula. Geoffrey is a Ugandan social entrepreneur and community leader with nearly 2 decades of experience turning bold ideas into lasting impact. As Executive Director for Partners for Community Transformation, or PACT, he is advancing a clear yet audacious mission, keeping adolescent girls and young women healthy and empowered. Under his leadership, PACT has expanded its reach nationally from its founding story of one community in central Uganda, bringing integrated WASH, education, and livelihoods care to hundreds of communities across 7 districts. He also serves as the chairman of the advisory board with the AIDS support organization, or TASO Molago. Geoffrey is also the founder of Lamarck Coffee, an award-winning, purpose-driven Ugandan brand with a growing international footprint. Through the Lamarck Foundation, where he also serves as the board chair, he champions youth entrepreneurship with skills training, business mentorship, and startup support, proving his belief that market-based solutions are a must to accelerate development outcomes. A trusted leader within the Bloodwater community, Geoffrey also serves as the founding chairman of the Leader Collective's Advisory Committee and is a 2-time Leader of the Year award recipient in 2020 and in 2025. He embodies the leadership values that I personally aspire to live out. I am privileged to introduce to some and to reintroduce to many a leader that I get to call my friend, Geoffrey. Welcome to this episode of the Leader Collective. It's so wonderful to have you.
Wow, that's a wonderful introduction, Nadia. Thank you so much. It's so kind for all those, interesting words. And it's a pleasure to meet with you again, Nadia. Good to see you.
Same. Yeah, it's a well-deserved bio and doesn't even begin to capture all the things that really embody who you are and what you're about. And so really that's where today's conversation comes in. As you know, season 1 is all about the seed, the origin stories, and the experiences and journey that kind of lead us to where we are today. So I want to thank you for your generosity of time and spirit to share a little bit about the many years and twists and turns in your own life story that bring us to where we are today. I just want to invite you to take us back to wherever you really want to begin to get to know who you are and how you find yourself where you are today.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you, Nadia. And one of the hardest questions sometimes I find, which may sound funny, is describing myself who I am. I would have different descriptions, but definitely I'm a pure Ugandan citizen and born from central part of Uganda. About to 43 years ago. And I'm delighted to be a father to 4 beautiful children and also Christian serving my church, both in where I live in my area. I lead development projects at my church, but also serving my community in various capacities as an entrepreneur, as a farmer, as a community service person into my Rotary Club where I belong. But also, most importantly, I serve the community at a wider spectrum as executive director of Partners for Community Transformation. But it definitely has been a long journey for me to get where I am today, and for me to be able to develop the skills that I require, to develop the networks, the connections that have empowered me and helped me to serve my community in those various capacities. This has not been an easy journey. It's been a journey full of course, challenges, but also a journey full of learnings at every stage, learning new things, considering challenges as opportunities, to learn and take on new challenging moments. And at the end of the day, what has been always very exciting, that whatever begins as a challenge, ends up victorious, and then you'll be celebrating. So I've celebrated lots of achievements. Some of them you've just mentioned them. I'm delighted to be our winning lead of the year with the Bloodwater twice. That's not a joke. I don't take it for granted.
It's very well deserved.
Thank you. And
yes,
not to mention
not
a
to
few.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but I really do want to emphasize this. You've been a pillar for so many other leaders in our community, and your entire team, which is really a reflection of your leadership, just what you've been able to offer to your peers within the partnership. So I want to say thank you for just leading in that way.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And I think I always give the credit and back to the people that you work with. And on a serious note, people like the Bloodwater fraternity. I mean, this is not about Bloodwater, but it's difficult for me to talk about our journey, our growth as an organization without talking about Bloodwater, because Bloodwater has invested a lot in our OS, organization strengthening activities and engagements, both on the side as an institution, but also individuals as leaders and also as the communities. So for me, it has made a very great deal of development into us. But going back to some of the, many years back, I regard myself as one of the many unprivileged, young people in Uganda. I didn't have, great opportunity to grow alongside my parents, because I think I last saw my mother when I was about 10 years old. So I didn't spend much time with my mother, and eventually she died when I was just about 11 years. And then with my father, I stayed a little bit time with my father, but we grew up in the village. So he was a hustler, so he didn't spend much time at home, And unfortunately, at some stage, he got sick, bedridden for some time due to HIV, and we lost him at an early age when we were young. And then I happened to be the firstborn of 9. So, as you know, in Africa, if you're the firstborn of 9, I've told you my mother died way, back, and now my father's gone. So that means I had to take up the responsibility of being the father and the mother and the brother at the same time, So, it started a bit challenging, but I always thank God, because every time I look back into those moments, and I'm like, I think God at some stage was preparing me for many, leadership responsibilities that were coming on board. And just before my father died, I had just completed my primary leaving examinations, and I joined the senior secondary one. And my father felt like, I think he was being weak, and he could not be around for me to complete education. And him knowing that I'm the firstborn, he knew definitely I was going to have the responsibility to look after my siblings. So he invited me from education into a skilling, vocational, skilling. And I remember there were 2 options. There was bricklaying, which is building, and then there was carpentry. According to him, he really wanted me to go for carpentry, because he thought after graduation, I could set up my small workshop, start making my own furniture. It is a bit easy. By then, wood, timber wasn't something very difficult to access as it is today. But I didn't like carpentry for one major reason. Because as I was growing up, they're telling us that carpenters nailed Jesus on the cross.
Oh boy.
So I was like, I was seeing carpenters as betrayals. How could you nail Jesus on the cross? Or throughout my childhood, So when he told him to go for that, I had a lot of debate into my childhood minds, thinking and all that. But and then I had a friend, a younger friend also, who was my close friend in the village, and he was like, no, I think that's the best. Your father always will know the best for you and all that. So eventually I go for carpentry. And I did it, and I never regret. I did it for 2 years, and I graduated. And immediately I graduated, after about 5 months, then my father passed on. And I'm here to say that I used those skills in carpentry to be what I am today.
Say more about that.
Yeah, yeah. So you see, because when my father died, when I went to this vocational school, I turned up into a leader, so I was the, you would say, the guild president of the vocational school. So we used to receive many visitors. So some of these visitors that came, I used to interact as the students' leader to welcome them and all that. And there came one lady who really liked me so much. And when I graduated, she was like, we have an orphanage. We always want to have a carpenter around to repair the beds, the benches, the ceilings, and what. Would you come and be with us? I'm like, wow, that's a pleasure. So I went and I started working in that orphanage and for some time. And then, of course, afterwards, I moved on. But that was my entry point into employment. So it was little money, but it would support me. But definitely remember, I had 8 siblings behind me that needed my care and all that. So oftentimes the money wasn't enough. So I moved on, started working with some guy who was doing construction, and he would do construction sites, would do ceilings, and he would do the work, the building. I would do the ceiling, I would do the shutters and things like that. So time went on like that. But you see, I was always challenged deep in my heart. I kept looking at myself that no, I think I deserve better. I shouldn't be this. So whatever I was doing, that kept, clinging to my mind. No, when I'm on the construction site, yeah, I'm working, yes, but I'm like, no. And you see, what pushed me so much, this is very interesting. The gentleman that was actually the foreman on the site that I used to work with, that used to give me work, he was a primary one dropout. This guy had developed experience over time. He's now the foreman and he's my supervisor. I was actually the one writing for him. He would tell me, note this down, write this. So that pushed me. I'm like, how can I be supervised by someone that should be better than him? So for me, you remember at the start, I did mention something that I used to see every challenge as an opportunity.
Right.
So that was something challenging, but I was like, it's an opportunity to push me going. So anyway, so during those times, I worked on the construction site. I rode border, border borders. I worked on the washing bays, washing cars. And so I did all those jobs. But make
Right.
sure to
Everything that was available.
yes.
Right.
Yes. So, and I remember then I was actually renting one small room. It's about 10 by 12 feet wide. I was staying in that room with about 5 of my siblings somewhere in the suburb of Kampala. So it was all challenging, and I was really working hard to get out of that. Anyway, so time came as God never disappoints. God sent someone to me. I was working one evening, I was working on the construction site, and some lady came and he was like, Geoffrey, hi, how are you? I'm like, fine. Do I know you? I'm like, yeah, you certainly know me because I know you. She was like, what's your name? I told her, where did we meet? She had brought her car for washing. She's now a reverend, very high-level profile reverend, currently in the country here. So, but by then she wasn't a reverend. So I told her where we met. They used to sponsor children at my vocational school where I did my carpentry. So they would come to see the children they sponsor. So I reminded her. She was like, wow, I remember. And during that period, actually, there was an AIDS Challenge Youth Club, which was trying to fight HIV among young people. So they would train the youth to spread the information. So I was still a member of that club again in the school. So she was like, wow, she was coming from Tasso now, where I serve on the advisory committee. So she was like, wow, we want you to come and, continue working with the schools. Come to Tasso, give me appointment. I went to Tasso. And
Can I ask, how old were you at this point?
At this point, I was about 19, 20.
Okay.
Yeah, I think about 20. About 20, yeah. I'd made 20, actually. So I go to Tasso and they say, we want you to continue volunteering and supporting schools, go to schools, spread the information about HIV. So they trained us more. And for me, I think that was my turning point because then the lady I was working with, she's called Sylvia Ofumbi. She was a very nice lady and told him, Geoffrey, I think you're a very bright young man. You've got to go back to secondary and study. And I'm like, you're speaking the language I want to hear.
Right.
But the challenge is, how do I put on a uniform now and go to senior one? Because that's where I'd stopped. And she was like, no, there's adult schools where you can go and start from there and all that. So yeah, we worked out that. I started I enrolled for my secondary. I worked through as a volunteer then with TASO and volunteered until I then started working there. So we got the various trainings and eventually I became a staff when I think that's when I had completed my senior six somewhere there. So I became a field officer with TASO and I was in charge of, to people living with HIV. And that's when the community drug distribution model had just started. So we were trained to do that. And, we first started by taking drugs, delivering to households. Then when the grants increased, the number of grants increased. So we went to community points and all that. So as I was studying, of course, as I was working, I was studying, then looking after my siblings and all that. So yeah, basically that is the early stage of my life, my work life, how I started and how I transitioned into going back to school. So I do my bachelor's in social work and social administration. Immediately after I finished, I did my postgraduate diploma in project planning and management. And then I did my master's in project planning and management. And later on, then a few years ago, I did my master's in business administration.
Yeah, that's such an incredible journey. There's a couple of threads that I just want to kind of call out that I'm hearing has been a real hallmark of your life. And you said it, I think, once or twice explicitly that from a very, very early age, you were able to sense that something that comes that's a challenge really is an invitation for a possibility.
Yeah, sure.
Do you remember where you're that, like how that formed for you? Was it just an internal knowing? Did somebody tell you that? Like that to me is a very profound learning that some of us, we get there many decades of life experience later, but for you, it sounds like that clarified in your very formative years, even as a.
Oh yeah. Although I said I didn't spend a lot of time with my father, but the little time we would spend together, we were good friends. Although I was a child, so we would talk a lot. Over time, as I grew up, I keep reflecting on our chats with my father, even when he was on his deathbed. It was kind of a friendly talk, but a child counseling sessions always. But these did not come direct. Always they didn't come direct to me. And he used to mention some of those things. I told you at the start that I served my church as head of laity. And this was because of my father, because he served as head of laity. And he used to tell me how to look after religious leaders and support them and all that. And that. But even the things of, viewing challenges as opportunities. He used to tell me that in life that we are walking, the journey of life that we are walking, you should never expect this to be a straight life journey. You're always going to find challenges and you're also going to find opportunities. But life, if you trust God, will be good. But he used to mention one thing. I remember even mentioned it the morning before he died, because I was with him on his deathbed and he sent me to get him something. And before he came back, I found him dead. But I left when we were talking. But I remember he mentioned to me and he said, if you want life to be very easy and good for you, every challenge that comes your way, first sit and analyze the opportunity out of it. And by doing that, you'll find a solution for that challenge. And you will not spend time thinking about the challenge. And this sounds funny, but he told me this. He told me, you see, I'm dying soon. I may not survive. I'm dying of HIV. But because I'm HIV positive, I was able to connect you to people that matter. Because, he was being supported by TASO as a client. And when we came to for his treatment during that period, he had made friends. So we used to see his friends, including the executive director then of the organization. So we became very good friends and all that. And when he died, it was easy for me to reconnect with TASO again, and life moved on. So he was telling me it's not easy for a person like you to have a phone number to speak to the executive director of such a huge organization. But you see, you can speak to them because I'm HIV positive, I'm sick. It's a very big challenge to me and the family and you, my children. But at the same time, let's see the opportunities you're getting out of that. And definitely. So because of those and many other, I learned that from my father, and I've come practicing it, and definitely I see that it works out. It works out.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the legacy that he left behind him with you, because I mean, what a full circle to even today you sit as the chairman of the advisory committee at TASO. So truly there are, which is the second thread that I think I'm kind of seeing very clearly, and just want to also pull on that every circumstance serves a part of a much bigger part of the story that is unfolding in our life.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I know that we heard it said, the phrase "nothing is wasted." There's like nothing that happens to us that is a wasted moment or opportunity. Everything can serve us towards a greater sense of good or purpose or growth if we let it.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that you've shared, now that you've unfolded this part of the story and your connection with the woman who, the later reverend, who then brought you back into the fold with Tasso. And if we fast forward another 20 or so years, for you to be sitting on the board, it's just a really incredible reminder that there is deep connectivity in every relationship, every experience, even moments of our life, past to present, if we really kind of keep a very sensitive heart and mind and be open to this.
Yeah,
I wanted
sure.
to ask, do you remember if there was a particular moment where you had more clarity around your specific, we use the language often to say like a purpose, a personal purpose, or a life's work. Do you remember when that came together for you, or when you first had clarity around what it was that you wanted to really kind of plant yourself into and commit your life's work to? And I say that because I heard you also reference this moment where you were like, there's more for me than this. So there was a stirring and an awareness, but to really kind of say, this is the path I'm journeying on. Do you remember when that was?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there've been a moment, but I think this has grown into me right from childhood. I've always felt like actually what I'm doing today is something that I've always wanted to do from my childhood. I don't know, I may not remember exactly, but I think this was transformed more into me when I joined the vocational school. And also, you remember I told you after the vocational school, I went to an orphanage where I worked. And then I go to Tasso. So you see, but even before I go to Tasso, you realize that I used to accompany my father for treatment and so on. So I would see that kind of compassion within people around me. That built within me. I always felt like I wanted to do this kind of social work service to the community. And that also tells you why I did a social work and social administration course at the university. I was offered different courses by different universities, and I refused until I went to a university that gave me this course that inside me I felt that I wanted. And then during that, I also went and did counseling and guidance, different certificates, child counseling, adult counseling, and all that. So all that was building my passion and interest into community development work. So right from childhood, this has been my area of interest, has been my area of focus. And I remember even when I was working with TASO, I was in a given position, of course, as you know, a bit of a lower position. But everything I was doing, I kept like feeling, I feel I should do more than what I'm doing. There are a lot of things like in terms of program development, program service delivery, things like this that I had limited capacity to change. I wasn't in the management, and certainly I wouldn't be given my experience and education and all that. But despite that, I felt like, no, I feel I should do more. I feel I should be the one supporting this. So I tried to set up an organization. It was hectic for me. I'm looking after my siblings. I'm having this job, and every month I'm getting, I was paying fees for my siblings on loans. So, but I mean, something was pushing me to do more. You know, you have your siblings, they're 8. You can't look after them very well. Then you want to go to the community and support other people in the community. So it was, I think I was confused at some time. I don't know, maybe I was chasing my passion. So no wonder when I met the lady that one of the founders of then a small organization called the Mitiana Charity, and we had a chat. It was easy for me to move into this, and I left a job which was paying me something like maybe 2 or more than 2 times what I got when I came to take up this role, because I felt like I really wanted to support more of grassroots, designing programs that support the grassroots, support issues of social well-being, economic well-being, and you see, young people develop. And I had 5 siblings, we're 9. So actually 6, we're 9, and the 6 of our siblings are girls, and the only 3 of us are boys. So for me, I saw how my sisters grew up, and I felt they lacked a lot of the mother figure within them. 3 of them, 4 of them are my stepsisters, and I saw how they lacked that and all that. And I grew up with the passion of seeing how best can we, advocate for the well-being of the girl child, support these girls. For me, that's where I drive my passion from. And so seeing my siblings, seeing my sisters and all that developed my passion more. But also at my early age of work, I happened to interact so much with, welfare people that were supporting communities and all that. And that grew my passion. But I must say, in my life, I've never dreamt of something different from what I'm doing. The only thing that I've dreamt about at some stage is probably being in a political office that can make things better.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Sorry if you hear some sound, it's raining heavily here. Yeah, but that's it.
I can kind of hear it in the background, but it's not too loud. Yeah, so that's also very powerful reflection, I think, for all of us listening. It's, I think there is a temptation to want to find like this one moment that kind of gives birth to something. But I'm hearing you say that it was the everyday surrounding of your experiences in life that had been continually shaping you to be on the path that you have stayed on. You were always on it, and you have just continued to stay on it, which I'm so grateful for. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about the birth of Geoffrey, the coffee expert and social entrepreneur, because that sounds like a distinctly different pathway from but not so much. There's still a deep connectivity to young women and their well-being. But when and how did that come about?
Well, that's interesting. And it's also started from childhood, I must say, because at home, and I told you, father died when we were very young. So at home, we had a small coffee plantation, nearly 1 acre. And I think this was the main source of our income during that time. Even when our father got very ill, it's the only thing that we would go and pick something for living. We are doing some farming for, of course, subsistence farming, but it turned out to be that however little the food we were growing was, we had to sell some of it to survive. I wouldn't call it a coffee farm, a coffee plantation, because it wasn't really managed in any professional manner. It was just, I think, Dad at his age just put up coffee trees. It was very common then for every household to have some coffee plantations around their home. And I think ways back we are told it was a must from the kingdom when the kingdoms were still in charge of leadership in our country. So the king made it a point that every household must have coffee plantation. And I'm like, if I went back home to improve this coffee plantation, probably to grow a much better income. But still, I didn't have any good skills about coffee farming. So I was just debating with my mind, having a meeting with my mind, So as I was, talking about that and thinking about that, how to grow that more, in 2011, I met, of course, that's when we got through the Mtiana Charity. So we got in touch with the Mtiana Charity, and then we found that there was land which the church wanted Mtiana Charity to develop. And for me, what was something that I liked more, and like I said, was coffee. And it was in passion, in line with what was being thought about. So we find coffee there. There was a few plants there. And then we started growing more coffee there. So do you see that my passion now is coming to reality? Now I see this. And I've always thought that the communities have to be supported to be able to have an economically sustainable kind of ability. They shouldn't always expect to be given. How do we support these communities? So with that, we started growing coffee with our friends, some friends from the UK that were supporting us up to some stage. So we started growing coffee. We kept expanding the farm. And as we speak, there are about 76 acres of coffee. And this coffee is supporting the church to get income, it's supporting the community to get employment, because the land where we're farming belongs to the church. And all that. So with that, it developed my inner interest that were there. And then they became bigger. And then that's when I came to realize that. So with that, I developed my passion. As we did that, I was getting more knowledge, more experience. I found myself sitting on serious coffee, committees and all that, and then learning more and all that. Then people start coming to me to see how we can work together in growing coffee and all that. So around 2000, and I remember it was around 2015, I was actually traveling to the UK. And I thought, what gift should I take to some of the friends in the UK? So I got some few coffee beans. I took them for roasting. We roasted them. And I got some paper bags. I packed them and traveled with them to the UK and gave to these people. I still have the very first paper bag that we made. So when I took this coffee to these people, they are like, wow, your coffee has a very nice aroma. It's so nice. Smells so good. What and all that. So they are very good compliments about the coffee. I said, thank you. Definitely didn't make a lot of meaning for me. So I come back and we harvested some coffee. We took it for sale to one of the busy areas in Kampala where, coffee buyers gather. So when we sold the coffee, most of the guys that we sold coffee to were forcing us to sign an agreement with them that they should be the single buyers for our coffee. I know, I was very excited for us to make those big deals, but something kept asking me, why do they want to tie themselves around our coffee? Which means there's something special with our coffee.
Oh, that's so good.
So we had grown the coffee in a very highly recommendable agronomic kind of manner, going by the experience we had gotten over time. And so they liked the coffee so much. So I said, wow, this is interesting. Started thinking about the comments I got from the UK, and this guy is wanting to buy our coffee. I said, there's something hidden here. So I started reading more and studying more about coffee processing and packaging. There are some friends that I met in some organization called the New Cafe, which was bringing together some coffee farmers. So some friend of mine called Joseph, I met Joseph. We had some chat about that. And he told me, well, that's when I came to know that you could not package only, one type, like we are growing mostly Robusta. So you needed the Arabica to do, maybe if you can package Arabica, you can do some blend. And Robusta, because of the different dynamics, you can't do it alone. So I started developing contacts from the Eastern Uganda where they are growing Arabica. We worked around, and in 2016, we developed our first coffee brand, which is now called Lamak Coffee. And Lamak coffee is a combination of some coffee from Eastern Uganda and the coffee that we also grow. So our farm, Lamak Uganda Limited, is a company that produces Lamak coffee. So our farm sells now coffee to this company, Lamak Uganda Limited. And so we started in 2016, and we're debating around the name of Lamak. Well, what should we call our brand? Should we call it Victoria Coffee because of Lake Victoria? We went to search and Victoria Coffee was in existence. We couldn't use the name. Should we call it Pearl Coffee, the Pearl of Africa? No, it wasn't accepted. So we had the long time. But certainly, again, the passion, the childhood passion, pulling us always and pulling us always. There was a girl that we had supported at the farm. She was called Maki. Her name was written Macie, Maki. And the story around her is another sad story. She had been raped from the community. I just found her at the farm, and then she was pregnant, and I asked about her. They told me about her story. They know the people working at the farm, because I wasn't staying at the farm always. They told me her story. We visited the home where she was living. The people had vanished. So we looked after her at the farm, and we looked after her after giving birth. She went back to school, and she picked out of interest in coffee as well. So we're like, wait a minute. We have a passion of supporting more girls like Maki. Why don't we name our coffee brand after her? So that it keeps telling us where our brand started. Because the reason why we are starting this is to generate resources and be able to use these resources and support many young girls that may not have opportunities to have someone like me who looked after my siblings,
right,
my sisters. So we're like, there's, I think, a strong connection in this. The main purpose where we have developed this brand is to support teenage mothers, teenage girls, get skills. And so we should always be reminded of the very first case of our brand. So that is how we ended up naming our coffee. We wanted to call it Maki, but when we went to registration, it wouldn't be allowed. So we removed the IE and we left it as Lamak. And we started doing so. Today we train, we receive every week. I have like 3 groups of people that come to me. I take them to the farm to learn coffee farming. We now have a nursery bed where people keep coming to buy coffee seedlings from us. So basically we are supporting Uganda to increase coffee farming, increase coffee volumes. Of course, certainly you've heard of late, Uganda has moved from exporting only 3 million bags to over 8 million bags now by last year. So we are proud. We must be one of the people that are supporting that growth, because we now give coffee seedlings to communities. We receive people from all different professions coming to us for coffee training. We run coffee shops, and then we have intern students coming to learn coffee. So within our coffee shops, on our farm, and we are also exporting at a very small, volumes to the UK. And recently, we launched our first shipment to North Carolina in US. So we are also exporting to US. So all those sales. So the more coffee we are able to sell to the world, the more coffee we are able to sell to in US, the more money we are able to raise, and then be able to support the community. So, and my siblings, many of them are into coffee. One of my young brothers is into coffee farming. He's doing his own coffee farming. One of my sister is into coffee companies. So our youngest sister works with Lamak as our salesperson. So, my wife is the head of Lamak Foundation, advancing economic skills for young people and teenage mothers. She's so passionate about that. And God never makes a mistake. You see how God connected us as well.
Yeah,
that's around the coffee journey. And we are so excited about that. So we are doing that. There's the social impact within our coffee, but also the business impact, which helps us to raise money and keep the social impact running.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. I've heard parts of the story, but today I've learned some new parts of it to give me even a more fuller picture than what I knew before. I knew that was going to happen in the conversation today. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself and your story, Geoffrey. And I know there's more. Like you even just touched on the story of you and your wife meeting is a story. We'll keep that for season 2 when we come back together and talk about it. I've had the privilege of hearing that story, and it's a good one. But I'm just so in awe by I'm trying to see if I can get the right words to express this. There is a ripple effect that is happening around you just based on the sensitivity that you move with in every day, in every circumstance in your life, to follow a nudge or something that is just kind of inside of you saying, no, listen to this, or follow this path, or remember this person. And the ripple effect of that has been really transformative. And the way in which your life and the community of leaders that you are surrounding yourself with by virtue of the work that you are doing and how you build others and bring others into the journey with you, it is having an impact, as you said. That's not just about any one specific location in Uganda. It is rippling out to the region and the world. I am grateful to you for your personal commitment to saying yes to the good, hard work because you feel that it is the right thing to be doing, and how to channel passion, not just for your own personal, professional growth and satisfaction, but also really to kind of lift up everyone around you. And always, everything that you have shared today, every part of it, of the story, connects back to others. And that way of living a life that is poured out for the good of the people around us is a very powerful model that you are embodying for anyone who knows you. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Maybe just before we close, because we are coming up on time, is there anything around you right now that is inspiring you, that you could say you are seeing flourishing happening, that you would just want to kind of share as parting words? What's got you most hopeful and inspired right now in this moment?
Yeah, definitely there's a lot. And if we started to talk, we would, spend a lot of time, because there are a lot of exciting things. But in a brief, in summary, I would say I'm so grateful to God. I usually ask myself, who am I? And the opportunities that have come around us, and the story back, like I told you, when we are young and we lost our parents and all that, and seeing who we are today, who I am today. I'm grateful that all my siblings are graduates now, except one. All the others have graduated. We have a lawyer, as a business people, so all these, to me, I think it's really a blessing from God. But also, most importantly, is the ability for me to connect and network with various people. I'll just cite an example with our partnership with Broadwater. And I know Broadwater works with a number of partners, but I feel that we've been given space to contribute to the way things are done at Broadwater. We've had suggestions. There's one suggestion I'm very proud of. Like when we were in Broadwater, they were giving 10,000 for OS, for each organization, for each round. And I remember proposing that, how about if this went to maybe 15,000? Of course, I gave the different reasons, and that worked out,
Yeah.
So for me, it just doesn't happen anyhow. You must have built the hard work, the connection, the trust, the respect, and all that for you to be able to bring on such suggestions. I look back at the board, like I've told you, serving with Tasso on that board. I look back at us being able, for example, recently I've always dreamt having our coffee coming to the US market. Because, it's a huge market. And I've always asked myself, how best can we tap into, this big market? It certainly is not something very easy. And when I was making my trip to US in June last year, I knelt down, I developed a list, And then I prayed against that list, how I wanted God to help me. And one of the things that was, would you give me a link, a connection to someone that would buy interest within our coffee and then be able to support its export to US? And I come to North Carolina. I have a chat with this very kind gentleman and very passionate about community work, Patrick, and we talk. Yeah, I think we can do something about the coffee. I'll ask friends around and all that. And I come back, and just around November, before we know, it was like, you know what, Geoffrey, I think we should bring your coffee to the US. We should do this. We should do this. And honestly, I'm a believer. I was believing, but I wouldn't see it happening soon. And here, just a few months down the road, we've had different challenges having it come over, different registration that we are required and all that. But all these have been worked out. And now we have this. So when I reflect at all those things, I really want to thank God and I want to encourage people that determination and following your passion and the leveraging on networks and the connections and can make things happen. So I'm very happy for that. I look at where PACT is today. I mean, it's another big, story next time for us to talk about where PACT came from and where it is today. But coming from a small town of Mityana and now being a national organization, coming from, as a one full-time employee, and then having around 30 employees, coming from a small room you're renting to own your own big complex as an office. So all those are gradual developments that have come over time. And for me, they keep me motivated and it keeps me seeing where we are heading. Yeah, I would really say a lot about that, but that's it.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. Geoffrey, thank you so much for just your open-heartedness. And I know I'm leaving this conversation with some really important seeds of wisdom to consider in the everyday as I move through life. And I know everyone listening will feel the same. We're going to put in the show notes, how people can stay connected to you, to PACT, to Lamarck. And please consider Kenya as one of your export places.
Yeah, we are. We've already started that. We are talking to some colleagues in Kenya.
Good.
I'm very positive that before the year ends, possibly we shall have our coffee on the Kenyan market.
Good, because the last bag that I got from you when I was with you in June of last year, it's almost finished. I've been using it very sparingly.
Okay,
so
sure.
I would like a top up.
Yeah.
But thank you, Geoffrey. It's been such a joy to talk, and we will have a follow-up conversation so that we can get the wedding story amongst others.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for making the time, and please deliver my special appreciation to the team at Broadwater, yourself, very important and very big supporter of our work, and we are so proud of her. We are really moving ahead because of her work. Please let her know that. And the entire team at Broadwater, we are so grateful for the OS support, which has really contributed significantly to our growth and sustainability. And all your colleagues and your former executive director, Jake, was very kind to us and all that. So thank you so much for making time and for identifying me as one of the people to do this kind of report. I'm really honored. It's a pleasure for me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Until next time, see you later.